Hello and greetings to you wherever you may be on this wonderful, beautiful planet we call home, the third rock from the sun. My name is Anthony Altman, and today's date is the 19th of April, 2024. The title of this video is How to Resolve Any Issue. How to resolve any problem, any challenge, any issue. This is highly pertinent at the moment. And in all my research, reading, listening, watching videos, I am hearing many, many wonderful commentators who are describing extremely well what our issues are, what our problems are, what our challenges are that are facing each one of us on planet Earth at this time. And yet, I personally am not aware of anyone who talks about finding the solution. I endeavor to talk about the finding the solution. And I can't understand why there are not more people doing the same thing. I cannot be the only one. That's impossible. It is possible that the people who are thinking like me do not have a platform or a voice, or I just have not heard them. What I hear in abundance is the describing of all our ills, our woes, everything that is, and it's all true. But now is the time to consider how we can resolve these issues. I also talk about consciousness, the C word. And most people are just demonstrate to me by their silence that they are not interested. I really do my very best in order to describe my perception of consciousness on my website, anthonyaltman.net. I describe in detail in the on the healing and wellness page what I believe, how I perceive consciousness, in order to help describe what it is, so that others may have a better understanding. But most people don't seem to comment on that. And I'm prompted to make this video because our issues, our challenges, the problems on this planet are just going from bad to worse. I just saw the video that was sent to me by Del Bigtree of the Highwire in the United States, and his concern and focus in part of his 2-hour presentation was on artificial intelligence, AI. And I was prompted to write to him, which I've done a few times, to suggest ways and means, at least coming from me, what we might be able to do in order to help resolve all these issues. And I have not heard from him. In fact, nobody seems to be interested. I've written to a lot of people, and they're just not interested. And this is what I have to say. First of all, this is not original to me. This was quoted, I believe, by Albert Einstein. The consciousness that creates or helps to create the problem cannot be the same consciousness to find the resolution of that problem. Logical? Of course it is. Yet very few people discuss this or look for what could be the resolution. They continue to use the same consciousness, the same perception to resolve the problem that was created by that very same consciousness and perception. It's just not possible. It's not logical. Excuse me, I'm getting a little excited. Passionate. I'm getting passionate about this. When I was with Maharishi, and I've mentioned this before, that I spent a number of years with Maharishi, I practice transcendental meditation. And in the early days, in the 70s, I spent quite a lot of time with the transcendental meditation movement. And I listened to what Maharishi was saying. I listened a lot. I learned a lot. And he would also say, and I've mentioned this in my other videos, and I like to attribute these good ideas to the people from which they originated. And Maharishi used to say, when you have a problem, you cannot resolve the problem while remaining on the level of the problem, which is similar to what I said previously, that the same consciousness that created the problem cannot be the same consciousness to find the solution. So in order to find a solution, it is required that you bring in another element, a higher level of consciousness, greater conscious awareness, or as you can see behind me, there is an image of 3 candles. See the one in the middle and the 2 on either side in a background of darkness. And this is the example that Maharishi gave us. He said, let's imagine that you're in a dark room and you can't see anything, and it's littered with obstacles, and you're walking around, falling over the obstacles, and you're trying to navigate through the dark. Now, the wise person would bring in another element, a third element, second element, third element, another element, which in this case would be light, a flashlight, a torch, or even a candle. And then you're able to see. Now, this is extremely important to understand this. Most people act as if they're in a darkened room and there is a problem, no light, they can't see. So their entire approach, their energy, their focus is on getting rid of the darkness, and they're trying all sorts of things. And that's impossible. But as soon as you bring in even a small candlelight, the darkness goes away by itself. And this is the ideal solution to any problem. You bring in another element, and the problem, the issue, the challenge resolves itself. So let's look at AI. Del Bigtree is very concerned about it, and quite rightly so. Elon Musk is also equally concerned about it, so he says, and it can have devastating consequences if allowed to run riot. It's logical. However, many people are advocating that we are to legislate against the use of artificial intelligence in certain ways. And I say that it's not impossible to find solutions through legislation, because what we will have is basically what we have now: thousands and thousands and perhaps millions of laws and bylaws to govern how we can think, how we can speak, and how we can act. And it just doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because you cannot impose a code of conduct onto people who are not able or willing to comply with that code of conduct. So let's bring in another element. Consciousness. Consciousness is that very, very fundamental energy, source of energy, or that which supports energy, which gives rise to our ability to perceive, to think, to speak, to act. And because we are accessing a minimal amount of that consciousness, similar to the minimal amount of the light spectrum that we're able to see. We only see a very, 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 very narrow band of the light spectrum. And some people say it's under 1%. Some people say it's 1%. Some people say it's under 5%. I don't know, but it's still nothing. It still means that we are virtually blind. Because if we don't see that light spectrum and we can only see objects on which or from which that light is reflected, we can't see anything. So I'm getting a little passionate again. I'm very passionate about this. We use, according to the scientists, as I've said so many times before, 4% of our DNA. Our mental potential is somewhere around between 5 and 10%, 6, 7%, nothing. We are not operating at full potential. We are operating subpar, under par. We are not operating very well at all. We just know enough to get into trouble. And that's what we do from one millennia to another. And now we're in a really big problem, especially in the Middle East with Israel and Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Ukraine and Russia and what America is doing. America has also been involved in all these wars, Iraq and Vietnam and everybody, the British, the French, the Germans, everybody is involved. Are we going to continue like this until we destroy ourselves? Well, if we continue like this, we will. And the only way out of this mess is to bring in this other element, which is consciousness, so that we can develop more of our innate potential, develop more conscious awareness, so that we don't have to be told how to think, what to say, and how to act. We will automatically flow with universal law, natural law, and act like human beings for the highest good of each of ourselves and everybody else, the planet, the animals, that we will automatically act in a manner that supports life rather than damages and destroys life. You cannot legislate that. You can only bring in more consciousness. How do we do that? We develop it. If you want a strong body and you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, you develop that. If you wish to learn to drive a car, you get lessons and you learn. If you wish to go to school to become a nurse, a doctor, an economist, you learn. You get a degree, you learn. Day after day, week after week, for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then you are able to do that job. Being an actualized human being is no different. We are to learn because somehow we've forgotten. And there's another element. And this is highly, highly provocative. Dark and light are two sides of the same coin. You destroy one, you destroy the other. Now, if you bring light in, the darkness will go away by itself, but it's not destroyed, it's always there. Remove the light, the dark returns. good and evil. You cannot destroy evil because it's one side of a coin and good is on the other side of the coin. And you destroy one, you destroy them all. Another provocative thought. Everything is of God. The good, the bad, the ugly, the evil, Satan, Lucifer, the angelics, everything. Archangels, Jesus, Buddha, you and me, we're all part of God. We're all part of creation. Another label. You cannot, as a human being, say, well, I think that we've got to destroy evil because I don't like it. How could you do that? The best way to destroy evil is to develop your own sense of good. Because evil cannot live where there is good. Darkness cannot exist where there is light. So where there's darkness, bring in the light. Where there is evil, bring in the good. How do we bring in the good? By removing those obstacles within ourselves, whether they're psychological, subconscious, the programming I've talked about so often, the learned patterns of behavior, the learned beliefs, the learned character, the learned personality, all that we've learned, which may not be for our highest good or the highest good of others and of all life, then we will be harming people. If we are not acting in a manner that's life supporting, then what we are doing is life damaging. And we are part of the problem. So when we work on ourselves, when we start resolving these issues by letting go those obstacles that prevent us from being more actualized, the sooner we will be able to bring more light, more goodness into our energy field, our physical bodies, our minds, our hearts. And we will reflect that light and that goodness and that knowledge and that compassion and that love. And it is then, when sufficient people are doing that, that humanity will be able to reflect back to everybody that love, that compassion, that harmony, that goodness, that light. If you really want change in the world, it is up to you and it is up to me. And it is up to every other single individual human being on this planet. If I point my finger at you and say it's your fault, how many fingers are pointing back at me? Let's take responsibility for what we have helped create by our ignorance. And how do you resolve ignorance? Knowledge. How do you resolve low consciousness? Higher consciousness, more consciousness. I'm sorry, this particular video is a little bit more of a teacher-student, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm very, very passionate, and we've got to do something very soon. All this talk and no action, if we don't actually start resolving the issues on this planet, we might as well just go home. I've written books. I have a website. I'm available to chat. There are many others. Somehow, I don't know where they are, but I'd like to talk to them. I wish they would connect with me so that we could create a community of people who are talking about resolution and not only the problem. Yes, we know about the problem. We know about all the issues. Most of us do now. Now it's time to talk about the solutions and to instigate and install the solutions to our problems. It is then it is then that we can begin building the foundation for a golden age. I'm optimistic. That's why I keep talking like this. I really am optimistic. But we are to do it together. Thank you for joining me on this road less traveled. And again, I apologize for sounding like the taskmaster, the teacher. I'm very passionate about this. And I trust that you will be inspired and motivated to actually do something, and do something more than maybe you've done before regarding the content of this video. We are to create a community of people who are solution orientated. And if you are solution orientated, please communicate with me. I would like to create a community of people where we discuss solutions, which always comes back to resolving the issues within each one of us. Thank you very much. Until next time, I wish you well.